Cars 3 is right around the corner, and we thought it was the perfect time to look back to the film that started it all. Disney and Pixar are masters of not only hiding things in plain sight, but of making sure they never tell you anything they don't want to. We went digging and found a whole bunch of stuff that we're sure you never knew about Cars. Before we get started, put the pedal to the metal and click that subscribe button to stay in the loop with us.
You're funny. I like you already.
Route 66. The late Chuck Berry was certainly a musical legend. Just ask Marty McFly from Back to the Future.
All right, this is an oldie, but well, it's an oldie where I come from.
His music has been featured in quite a number of films, so it's no surprise that the good folks at Pixar at some point wanted to use one of Chuck's songs in their movies. The timing was perfect when the first Cars movie was coming out in 2006. While going through a bunch of Chuck's old B-sides, they discovered a track appropriately titled Route 66, which is featured in the Cars series. Not believing their luck, Pixar contacted Chuck Berry's record company to see about securing the musical rights, but they hit a wall. The company had no idea what they were talking about. Talk about deep cuts. The company, persuaded by Pixar's determination, went through their archives and discovered that Chuck Berry did indeed record a song titled Route 66 that they had just simply forgotten about. Pixar eventually secured the rights to Chuck Berry's track, which in turn is a cover of an even older version, and got John Mayer to do another cover for the end credits. The songs can also be heard in California Adventure's Carlin, which opened up in 2012. Apple 84. If you didn't know this story by now, you'll be pleasantly surprised to learn that tech giant Steve Jobs had a hand in shaping Pixar in its early days. After putting some funds into the newfound company, Jobs eventually found himself as the primary shareholder in the company, thus making him the owner. He also served as executive producer for the company's first theatrical release, Toy Story. Pixar enjoys paying tribute to the late Apple co-creator in their work, and Cars is no exception. In a subtle move, they inserted a car that has a double Easter egg reference to Jobs and his famous company. One of the cars in the film is painted in a bold white and actually has the famous Apple logo painted on the car's body. That bit is obvious enough and is a fun little visual for many fans. But if you look deeper, you'll find a more clever secret hiding in plain sight. The car's number is 84. That may sound irrelevant, but 1984 is actually the year Apple launched their groundbreaking computer, the Macintosh. We've come a long way since 1984, but it's great to know that a company like Pixar always finds time to pay tribute to the past.
Do you know many Ferraris?
No. They race on the European circuit. I'm in the Piston Cup. What?
Luigi follow only the Ferraris.
Location Ferrari. Luigi is one of the more charming characters in Pixar's Cars movies. Along with his buddy Guido, which is Italian for I drive, they run a little tire shop called Luigi's Casa del Tires in Radiator Springs. These two are not only cars, but they're fans of cars. When the pair meets the Ferrari Michael Schumacher, they literally tip over in true fanboy fashion.
A real Ferrari! Punch me, Guido. Punch me in the face. This is the most glorious day of my life.
Now, while we know Luigi is a Ferrari fan because of reactions like this, there's another secret right out in the open that's an indicator to Luigi's love of the Italian stallion. If you look closely, you'll notice that Luigi's license plate reads 445-108. Just seems like a random set of numbers, right? Of course not. This is Pixar. The license plate is actually the longitude and latitude coordinates of the Ferrari factory in Modena, Italy. Pixar enjoys putting subtle Easter eggs in the most obvious places, and many of the license plates are indicative of something. Putting Luigi's passion right there on his car makes total sense for the character. First and last. Pixar's Cars isn't an old movie per se. Released in 2006, it still holds fond memories for many fans of the racing series. It had likable characters, great effects, and even some snappy tunes to go with it. And what better way to view all that animated glory than by popping it into your brand new Blu-ray player? For as long as Cars has been a series, film buffs and home cinema aficionados have been well versed in the power of the Blu-ray. Blu-ray ultimately won out against HD DVD to become the dominant force in high-definition formats for home viewing. To help usher in the new platform, Cars was the first Pixar film to make the jump onto Blu-ray formats, but it also has another unique honor under its belt. While it's the first Pixar film to be put on Blu-ray, it's also the last Pixar film to ever be released on the now seemingly ancient VHS format. To think that there was a time when both VHS and Blu-ray content lived side by side, even if only for a few months. There aren't too many films that can claim to be a part of three different mediums at the same time, but Cars can actually count itself as part of home viewing history. John Lasseter. When it comes to Pixar films, the first name that should pop into your head is none other than the great John Lasseter. He's the director behind such hit films as the Toy Story series, including the upcoming 4th entry, and Cars, including the upcoming 3rd entry. He's also served as a producer on many of Pixar's other projects, from Big Hero 6 to Incredibles 2. Since he's such a powerhouse in the company, the animators on Cars decided to leave a little hat tip to their illustrious leader in the final film. In the film, lead car Lightning McQueen can be seen sticking his tongue out whenever he's thinking something over. It may seem like a random character trait, but of course, it's so much more. This is actually something that John Lasseter does himself quite often when he's working on a movie. The animators noticed how often Lasseter did this and opted to incorporate his mannerism into the final cut of the film as a little hat tip. Try not seeing that the next time you see the cars pull away from the starting line. Time will tell if an older Lightning McQueen will have this trait when Cars 3 drives into theaters.
Will you turn that disrespectful junk off?
Respect the classics, man. It's Hendrix.
Message in a license plate. As we mentioned earlier, license plates are always a good picking ground when trying to find a clever reference left behind by the filmmakers. Many films, animated or not, have fun slipping secret messages on the plates. Aside from the Pixar mainstay A113, which is the classroom many of the animators were in at the California Institute of the Arts, there are more clever plate numbers in Cars. One such plate is seen on the car known as Fillmore, who's voiced by none other than the late, great George Carlin.
The sweet taste of my homemade organic fuel.
No, doesn't agree with my tank.
The Volkswagen Microbus can be seen with the plate number 51237. It's actually the date of birth for George Carlin. He was born on May 12, 1937. If that wasn't enough, the plate actually has a double special meaning, as the numbers are also the same as the zip code for George, Iowa. It's entirely coincidental, but it's also a little bit creepy that George Carlin's birthday also lines up with the zip code that shares his first name. Either way, it was a nice little hat tip to Carlin, who certainly made his mark during his career.
I'm Brent Mustangberger, here with racing legends Darrell and David Hopscap. There's never been a competition like this before.
Bob and Darrell. In the film Cars, audiences both on and off the screen got to witness the spectacle that is the Piston Cup. What a clever name. The Cup is a race that dates back to at least 1951 and is basically the Pixar version of NASCAR and is heavily inspired by the real-world Winston Cup. In the United States, NASCAR is insanely popular, so it's no surprise that the animators wanted to slip in a little secret in their movie that only the die-hard fans of the sport would understand. Enter the animated voice commenters Bob Cutlass and Darrell Cartrip. These two cars are actually based off the real-world NASCAR commentators Bob Costas and Darrell Waltrip.
It's too close to call. I don't believe it.
These two guys actually got to transform into vehicles on the screen, and their cars of choice were indicative of their personas. Bob Cutlass was animated as an old Cutlass Oldsmobile, while Darrell Waltrip is based off a 1977 Chevy Monte Carlo, the same car that he used that year. Both of these characters became fan favorites, and they will be returning to the racetrack one more time in Cars 3.
And now, our last competitor, number 95, Lightning McQueen.
McQueen. By now, most fans of Cars and Pixar in general tend to know that Lightning McQueen's name was taken directly from actor Steve McQueen's name, who in turn was a huge fan of motorsports and one of the highest paid actors in his day. Naming Lightning after Steve just made a lot of sense for a lot of fans of auto racing. But many will be surprised to learn that there was another source of inspiration when it came to Lightning's famous last name. Enter Glenn McQueen, who was a supervisor of digital animation and supervising character animator at Pixar. He was with Pixar from the very beginning, working on Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Monsters Inc., and Finding Nemo.
I know I get that reaction a lot. I create feelings in others that they themselves don't understand.
Glenn passed away during the production of Finding Nemo back in 2002, and in turn, that film is dedicated to him. But the team at Pixar felt another tribute was in order for such an influential and prominent member of their team. So they decided to name Lightning McQueen after him, which in turn fits nicely with Steve and the racing motif that goes with his name. So while British racing green may make more sense to some, we can't forget about Glenn's legacy. It's gonna be a good year. You can't have a racing film without some kind of reference or acknowledgement of tires. You just can't. Cars is no exception to this.
Checkered flag, here I come. Oh no! McQueen is blowing a tire! And with only one turn to go, can he make it? You fool!
and offers a creative way of getting around the copyrights of certain real-world companies. When it comes to NASCAR racing, the name of the game when it comes to tires is, of course, Goodyear. But Pixar couldn't use the company's name due to copyright issues, so they instead made a new company, Lightyear. Of course, this will sound familiar to anyone who's seen Toy Story, as the new company is not only a play on words against Goodyear, but is also a reference to Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story. The tires actually bear the inscription Section 4 Gamma Quadrant on the side. This is actually the same level that Buzz has to go through while Rex and the gang are playing the Buzz Lightyear video game in Toy Story 2. You gotta hand it to the animators of Pixar. They know how to add all kinds of amazing secrets to the videos that most people would miss. It's gonna take a while. Animation is by no means an easy profession. Not only do the production team have to create likable characters, but they also have to draw the backgrounds and animate all the movements that each character makes in the movie. You might be thinking to yourself that with the help of modern technology, this process can't be all that bad. You'd be very wrong indeed if that's what you thought. The standard for film is usually 24 frames per second, processed quickly enough that the static images appear to move and create video to our eyes. When it came to Cars, the animators had to wait quite a long time in order for the rendering of the animation to finish. To be exact, it took around 17 hours per frame. The final runtime of the movie is about 1 hour and 57 minutes. That's a lot of rendering. A contributing factor to the lengthy render time is the fact that this is the first Pixar film to use a brand new technology called ray tracing, which allowed the animators to create reflections on the cars. So next time you watch an animated feature, bear in mind the insane amount of time it took to make the final feature.
Major, Tow Major, that's who is here to help you.
Well, there you have it, everyone. Are you getting excited for Cars 3? Many people were surprised by the darker tone the teaser took, so we're definitely curious. So which secrets were you surprised to learn? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe for more awesome content from CBR.